Hey everyone, and welcome back to AGS Stories. This post comes from the subreddit Am I the Asshole, and it's by the user Appropriate Food 5e8 So here's the deal. I recently told my sister's boyfriend that it's none of his business if I don't want to be a stay-at-home mom. He had some strong opinions on the matter, but I don't think I should have to justify my personal choices to him. I'm honestly furious that he thinks it's his place to even have a say in what I decide for my own life. The only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be. Ralph Waldo Emerson. My name is Emily. I'm 24 years old, and I have an older sister, Jessica, who is 30. Jessica is a wonderful mother of 3, and she absolutely loves being a stay-at-home mom. She always dreamed of having a big family, and that's exactly what she has. I've always supported her decision to stay home and raise her kids, but my life is a bit different. I've made it clear to everyone that I don't see motherhood in my future, at least not right now, and possibly never. I've always been independent and focused on my career, and I'm not interested in becoming a stay-at-home mom. I have 2 other sisters who share my views, and we all feel the same way about this. But recently, things got tense between me and my sister's husband, Mark, who is 32. The trouble started one evening when Mark asked me about my plans for the future. He casually asked when I was going to settle down and get married. He even offered to introduce me to one of his friends, Ben, who is 28 and supposedly looking for a wife who would be content being a stay-at-home mom. I was taken aback. I politely told him that I wasn't looking for a relationship this year and didn't have plans to settle down anytime soon. That's when the tension began. He didn't take it well. Mark insisted that I was closing myself off to possibilities, and I could tell he wasn't happy with my response. He pressed me further, asking why I wasn't ready to start dating or looking for someone to build a future with. I had to be honest with him, even though I knew it would probably make things worse. I told him that I've had trust issues after my ex-boyfriend cheated on me. We were together for 3 years, and he spent 6 months of that time cheating on me. I didn't want to open myself up to dating again so soon after that betrayal. I thought Mark would understand, but instead, he got defensive. He told me I needed to get back out there and start trusting again, but I stood my ground and told him it wasn't his business. That seemed to be the end of it, or so I thought. 2 days later, Mark asked me the same question again, but this time, it was about whether I wanted to be a stay-at-home wife and mother. He seemed almost determined to push me into this role that I had no desire to fill. I told him no, that it wasn't something I wanted. In fact, I wasn't even sure if I wanted kids at all, let alone get married. I was trying to be as respectful as I could, but the conversation quickly escalated. Mark, who grew up with a stay-at-home mom, took offense to my response. He was visibly upset and began defending the idea that being a stay-at-home mother was the right choice for women. I tried to stay calm and explain that I didn't have anything against stay-at-home moms. I just didn't want that for myself. I didn't want to depend on a man for anything, and that was my personal choice. Mark didn't seem to understand that, though. He got defensive again, saying, "Not all men are the same." I agreed, but I also pointed out that not all women wanted the same thing. He seemed to take this as a direct challenge to his beliefs, and insisted that I was wrong for thinking this way. Then, Mark brought up Jessica, saying, "Your sister wants to be a stay-at-home wife and mom, so why can't you?" I was fed up at that point. I told him, "Congratulations then, you've found exactly what you're looking for with Jessica," implying that if he wanted someone like her, then he should stick with her. But no, that wasn't enough for him. He kept pushing, trying to make me feel guilty for not following the same path. It wasn't just the constant pressure to conform to his views that frustrated me. It was also the fact that he was making it about me, personally. I overheard Mark talking to Jessica about my decision to get an IUD, and he started ranting about how I was ruining God's plan by refusing to have kids. That hit me like a punch to the gut. I couldn't believe that this man, who barely knew me, was trying to dictate my personal decisions about my body. I told him that whether or not I had kids was absolutely none of his business. That didn't sit well with him. He was furious, accusing me of going against what God intended for women. His tone became aggressive, and he demanded that I leave his house. I was in shock, but I didn't argue. I packed up my things and left, not knowing what else to say to someone who clearly didn't respect my autonomy. After that, Jessica started calling me, asking me to apologize to Mark. She said that I should reconsider my decision to get an IUD and that I was being disrespectful to the idea of stay-at-home mothers. I was stunned. I told her that not everyone shared that dream and that I wasn't disrespecting her or any other woman who chose to stay home. But Jessica was insistent. She accused me of not respecting the sacrifices that stay-at-home moms make, which couldn't have been further from the truth. My two other sisters, who were on my side, tried to back me up. They both told Jessica that Mark had no right to dictate how I lived my life, and if I didn't want to depend on anyone for the rest of my life, that was my choice. The situation took an even darker turn when Mark started telling me that I was going to hell for being bisexual. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I screamed at him, "Well, I guess you think Jessica's going to hell too then, since she's bisexual as well." I knew that would infuriate him, but I didn't care anymore. I had to stand up for myself. Now, their friends are calling me an asshole for not respecting Mark's views. They claim that he's only concerned about what I do with my body because it's God's body, and I should respect that and start having kids. I'm completely frustrated and exhausted by the whole situation. Mark, a man who barely knows me, has tried to control my life choices, and my sister has sided with him instead of supporting me. So I'm left wondering, am I really the asshole here for telling my sister's husband that it's none of his business if I don't want to be a stay-at-home wife or mom? Of course, you're not the asshole in this situation, Opie. You're absolutely right. It's your life, and it's your decision. No one gets to dictate what you believe, what you should agree with, or how you choose to live. In America, we value individual rights and the freedom to make personal choices, whether it's about religion, lifestyle, or relationships. It's your right to decide what kind of life you want, and no one, whether they agree with you or not, should have the power to force their beliefs on you. What's important here is that you're standing firm in your own identity and your personal boundaries. You've already been respectful by explaining your choices to them, but they haven't respected your autonomy. If they can't understand and continue to pressure you, it might be time to consider going no contact. It's unfortunate, but sometimes when people refuse to relent, there's no point in continuing to engage with them. What do you all think about this situation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Now, let's dive into some community responses to see what others have to say. It's clear that you're not the asshole here, Opie. And honestly, the way your sister's boyfriend is behaving is downright absurd. I totally get why you're frustrated. This guy is way too involved in your personal life and has crossed so many lines. Your body and your choices are yours alone, and no one, especially not someone who's barely even in your family, has any right to try to dictate what you should or shouldn't do with them. The whole situation reeks of entitlement, and he needs to take several steps back. One of the comments from Gnostic Fun really hit the nail on the head. They said, "So many red flags here, not the a-hole." And to add a bit of fun and flair to your arguments, since they keep bringing up God in all this, feel free to point out that your sister's boyfriend is not your husband, and in God's eyes, they're living in sin. All those lovely children are illegitimate bastards. That should bring about a whole bucket of fun. Honestly, that's a hilarious way to turn the tables. I'm not saying you should use it in every conversation, but if he's going to bring up God, you might as well point out the inconsistencies in his reasoning. After all, isn't he supposed to be setting a good example? If he's so adamant about following religious guidelines, then it's fair to bring up how much more of a biblical contradiction he is. That might make him think twice before getting so preachy with you. Chronic Lurker 21 also chimed in, saying, "Honestly, he's out of line. It's your life. You don't owe anyone an explanation about your choices, whether you want to be a mom, stay at home, or get an IUD. None of that is his business. He needs to respect you and your decisions. If your sister's boyfriend is trying to control your body, he needs to chill. You're doing you, and that's what matters. This commenter really nails it. You have the right to live your life the way you want, and you've been respectful by explaining your views to him. His obsession with your choices is creepy, especially when it comes to something so personal like your reproductive decisions. It's none of his business, and he has absolutely no right to be so invasive. Then there's Unlikely 9942, who adds a very valid point about the hypocrisy in his behavior. Wait, dude is getting religious about you when he's dating a single mom? Your sister's kids aren't all from the same dad, right? Is she divorced or widowed? Why is he picking at the speck in your eye when he's got a plank in his own? That's exactly it. It's beyond hypocritical for Mark to criticize you when he's dating a woman who has kids from multiple men. Where's his judgment there? His holier-than-thou attitude needs a reality check. If he wants to preach about religious values, he should start by reflecting on his own life before pointing fingers at yours. Your sister might be caught up in this dynamic, but I'm glad to see that you're standing your ground. It must be frustrating that she's so eager for you to apologize when you've done nothing wrong. Too old for this pit makes a solid point here. Not the a-hole. He's way too involved in your personal life. You have nothing to apologize for. Tell your sister that if she wants to keep the peace, she needs to get her boyfriend to apologize to you for being a nosy, judgmental creep. Why does he know about your IUD if your sister told him? You need to put her on an information diet. Honestly, this advice is spot on. If your sister is talking to him about your personal matters, she needs to realize that she's enabling his behavior. You don't owe anyone an apology for making the decisions that are best for you. If anything, it's her boyfriend who should apologize to you for his intrusive behavior. You mentioned that the reason he knows about the IUD is because he walked in on a conversation between you and your sisters. The sarcastic sage made a witty observation about that. Why would he walk into your private conversation in the first place? Sounds like he's just looking for a way to insert himself into your life. Maybe he wants to control your body because he can't have it for himself. It's a weird obsession, and it's honestly not your problem to deal with. This comment adds a new layer to the conversation. His constant probing into your reproductive choices does seem odd, and it makes you wonder if there's some ulterior motive behind his obsession with what you do with your body. If he can't have you the way he wants, he might try to control it through his advice and guidance. You're also not alone in your frustration with the situation. Bitter and Proud rightly pointed out. He's clearly a control freak who doesn't understand boundaries. If your sister's boyfriend wants to start questioning your life choices, he needs to remember his place. He's not your husband, and it's none of his business what you decide to do with your body or your future. This advice really emphasizes the need for boundaries. Mark has no authority over you, and it's crucial to remember that you don't have to engage with him on topics that make you uncomfortable. What really stands out to me, though, is your commitment to standing firm in your beliefs and not letting anyone, especially not Mark, tell you what kind of life you should live. Your autonomy is what matters, and it's encouraging to see so many people backing you up. From Chronic Lurker 21 to the Sarcastic Sage, the overall message is clear. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your choices, especially not someone who can't respect your boundaries. So, what should you do now? Jaded Sister 03 suggests, honestly, go no contact with him if he keeps pushing. If your sister is truly on your side, she'll understand why you can't deal with him. Protect your peace. It's not worth it to keep engaging with someone who doesn't respect you. It's painful, but if Mark continues to act like this, it might be time to distance yourself from him entirely. Your well-being is the most important thing, and you shouldn't have to constantly justify your life to someone who's unwilling to respect your choices. All in all, OP, you're in the right here. Trust yourself and your decisions, and don't let anyone, whether they're family or not, make you feel like you need to live your life differently. You've got this, and you've got the support of the community behind you. Let's see how things play out, but one thing is certain. You're not the one who's in the wrong here. Update. The past few days have been a whirlwind of emotions, and I never imagined I'd be here, writing this update. As I shared before, I've been dealing with my sister's boyfriend, Josh, who has crossed so many boundaries that I'm honestly still in shock. But I finally made the decision to go no contact with him, and it wasn't a decision I made lightly. I don't feel safe around him anymore, and I knew I had to set firm boundaries for my own peace of mind. So I called my sister to explain everything. I told her exactly why I needed to distance myself from her boyfriend, and I didn't expect her to take it well. Sure enough, she was furious. She kept saying that I was overreacting and that I was making everything a bigger deal than it needed to be. But I stood my ground. I asked her if either of them was going to apologize to me for everything that happened, and her response was exactly what I feared. She said that they didn't owe me an apology and that in fact I owed Josh an apology. To say I was shocked would be an understatement. How could she side with him after everything he said and did? Then, as if this situation wasn't bizarre enough, Josh overheard me on the phone. Once again, he inserted himself into a conversation that had nothing to do with him. He demanded to know the answers to two of his burning questions. First, why I didn't want to be a stay-at-home mother. I calmly told him it was none of his business and that he needed to stay in his lane. Second, why I didn't want to date or marry his friend. I told him bluntly that his friend wasn't my type and never would be. I told him, once again, not to talk to me again. Josh's response was more than I could take. He told me that if I didn't stop overreacting, I wouldn't be able to see my nephews and niece anymore. That was a low blow, and honestly, it stung. He knew how much I loved those kids, but I wasn't going to let him manipulate me emotionally. I told him that, for my mental health, I was done being in contact with him. My sister, unfortunately, backed him up. She said, "Okay, you've made your choice and we will make ours." I was officially cut off from her and her boyfriend. Later that day, my dad found out about everything. He was furious when he heard how Josh had treated me. My dad didn't hold back. He went to Josh's place and yelled at him to back off. According to my sisters, things escalated from there. Apparently, my dad and Josh got into a fistfight. Now, I'm not totally sure who won, but my sisters said my dad came out on top. After the fight, my dad called me. He apologized for everything, and that's when he opened up about something I hadn't known. He asked me, in a sincere tone, why I didn't want to be a stay-at-home mother. I hesitated, but I decided to share my reasons with him. It wasn't just a simple choice, it was a deeply personal one. When I was 10 years old, I witnessed a traumatic incident involving my dad and my stepmom. My dad had been abusive to her. One night, things went too far, and I saw him choke her in a violent rage. He let her go when I screamed for him to stop, but there was never an apology from him. The police were called, and my stepmom chose not to file charges. That incident has haunted me for years, and it had a profound impact on my decision not to want to be a stay-at-home mom like my stepmom was. She had been trapped in that role, and I was terrified of repeating the same cycle. My dad, after hearing all of this, apologized to me. He said he never meant to hurt me, and he expressed regret for everything that had happened. His apology felt genuine, and it meant a lot to me, especially considering the past. Over the years, my dad has changed. He sought help and has made strides in becoming a better person, but the scars from that time in my life run deep. Even though he's changed, it's hard for me to completely let go of the trauma that I experienced as a child. After the conversation with my dad, I felt a mixture of relief and sadness. It's painful to revisit those memories, but I'm glad I finally had the courage to share my truth with him. I can't say that everything's completely healed, but it's a step in the right direction. My dad has apologized for his past actions, and I can only hope that he continues to work on himself. In the meantime, my sister and her boyfriend are still angry with me. Josh, despite everything, doesn't seem to understand why I'm upset. In fact, after my last post, a lot of people in the comments told me to ask Josh when he planned on marrying my sister, since they clearly weren't living up to his God's plan standards. So I decided to ask him directly. His response was predictable. "It's not your business when I marry your sister." To that, I calmly said, "Then it's not your business what I do with my body or who I date." Josh got angry and started cussing me out, but I honestly just laughed. It felt good to finally stand up for myself, even if it only made him angrier. As I write this, I'm reflecting on how far I've come. I'm sad that I had to end my relationship with my sister and her boyfriend, but it's for my own mental health. I'm sad that I won't be able to see my nephews and niece anymore, but I have to prioritize my well-being. It hurts, but it's necessary. I finally feel like I'm getting my mental health back to where it needs to be, but this situation with my sister and her boyfriend is dragging me down again. I've been reading the comments and seeing the support from everyone, and it's been a huge help. Someone mentioned going to therapy, and I've made an appointment for next week. I think it's time for me to really work through the trauma I've been carrying around for years. I'm grateful for all the advice and support, and I'm hoping that, as I continue this journey, I'll be able to rebuild my life and find peace away from all the toxicity. In the end, I've made my decision. My sister and her boyfriend may never understand why I did what I did, but it's my life, and I need to live it on my terms. If that means cutting ties with people who are toxic and disrespectful, then so be it. Life is too short to let people like Josh dictate my happiness. I'm moving forward, and I'm doing it for me. I've learned a lot through this experience. It's okay to walk away from toxic people, even if they're family. It's okay to set boundaries and protect your mental health. I can't change how my sister or her boyfriend feel, but I can change how I respond. I'm choosing to prioritize myself and my well-being, and I know that's the right choice. Thanks again to everyone who supported me through this. It's been a tough journey, but I'm feeling stronger every day. Let's now move on to the next post, which also includes an update. This post is from the Relationship Advice subreddit and is by the user Thor Ray Raccoon Weaver. The user, a 31-year-old woman, is asking for advice on how to deal with her difficult 33-year-old sister-in-law. The situation appears to be challenging, and the poster is seeking suggestions on how to manage the relationship with her sister-in-law. The post invites responses from others who may have faced similar situations or can offer advice on handling such complex family dynamics. Navigating family tensions, a holiday struggle. Rachel, a 31-year-old woman, had been dating Ethan, 30, for 3 years. They lived in a quiet suburban area, close to their families, making it easy to visit frequently. Rachel got along well with most of Ethan's family, but there was one person who made family gatherings more stressful than she cared for. Ethan's brother's girlfriend, Lily. Lily, 33, and Ethan's brother Ryan had been in a relationship for nearly 6 years. Ryan and Lily had their struggles. Ryan worked tirelessly, clocking in over 50 hours a week as a construction worker to provide for them. Lily, on the other hand, didn't work. She claimed that she couldn't handle a job due to the trauma from her past, but that didn't stop her from spending her days at the local bar with friends, all while complaining about how financially tight things were. Rachel couldn't understand Lily's behavior. She had always been able to manage her finances well, despite not having the same luxury of time as Lily. While Rachel felt empathy for Lily's trauma, it was hard to ignore her sense of entitlement and lack of responsibility. During the holiday season, when Ethan's parents hosted their Christmas celebration, things took a turn for the worse. Ethan's parents, who prided themselves on keeping things simple, had planned a small gift exchange. The total budget was set at $100 for each person, with a $10 limit on individual gifts. To ensure that everyone could participate, they had drawn names from a hat, and each person was tasked with purchasing one gift for someone else, with a total limit of $50 per gift. This was supposed to be fun and lighthearted. But then Lily got involved. When Ethan drew Lily's name, he had no idea what he was in for. Almost immediately, Lily started sending him links to expensive gifts, all of them well above the set budget. Ethan gently reminded her about the $50 limit, to which she replied, "You can afford it. I want these things, and you'll get them for me." To make matters worse, she informed Ethan that Ryan had drawn his name and was planning on getting him something much more expensive than $50. She pressed Ethan, saying that it wasn't fair that they had so much, while she and Ryan struggled to make ends meet. Ethan, though he was generous to a fault, was hurt by her insinuations. He worked hard for everything he had, and Rachel knew how much he valued saving for the future. Lily's behavior continued to escalate. She accused Ethan of being selfish, calling him greedy, and claiming that he only cared about the fancy life he had with Rachel. She even went as far as to say that Ryan and she resented Ethan for abandoning them and living a better life than they were. The comments stung, as Ethan would do anything for his family, but no one seemed to see that. Rachel was furious. She had witnessed Ethan give his last dollar to help someone, always putting others' needs before his own. And here was Lily, insulting him in front of everyone. She could tell that Ethan was trying to hold it together, not wanting to cause a scene, but the pressure was mounting. Eventually, to avoid more conflict, Ethan caved and bought Lily the overpriced gift she had demanded. Behind the scenes, Ethan's parents, who had been quietly observing Lily's behavior, simply rolled their eyes at her inappropriate comments. Rachel's mother-in-law had even confided in her, saying, "At least Ethan picked a normal one," referring to Rachel. She went on to say that she was glad Ethan had his life together and didn't need to be taken care of, unlike Ryan, who was still dependent on them. But what Rachel didn't know was that Ethan's parents had no idea what had transpired between Ethan and Lily. They were unaware of the pressure Ethan had faced to give in to her unreasonable demands, and they certainly didn't know how Lily had emotionally manipulated him. As Christmas Day approached, Rachel knew it was going to be difficult. She wasn't afraid of confrontation, but she didn't want to ruin the holiday by losing her temper. Lily had a knack for saying something that rubbed people the wrong way, and Rachel was certain that, before long, she would say something that would push her to her breaking point. It wasn't about the gift, Rachel knew that. It wasn't about the money or the item itself. It was about the lack of gratitude and the disrespect that Lily had shown toward Ethan. It was about her ability to take advantage of his generosity and kindness, and Ethan's inability to stand up for himself when it mattered most. Rachel felt caught in the middle of it all, torn between supporting her boyfriend and avoiding a confrontation that could ruin their family gathering. Rachel had already seen the pattern. Ethan, trying to make everyone happy, often let things slide for the sake of family peace. But Rachel wasn't going to let Lily walk all over him anymore. She had to do something. When the family gathered, Ethan and Rachel were the first to arrive. Ethan was already on edge, having had to endure countless passive-aggressive comments from Lily. The tension was palpable. As they all exchanged gifts, Lily handed Ethan a cold smile, and Rachel could tell she was just waiting for him to react to whatever she said next. "Is that all you're getting me?" Lily asked, her voice dripping with disdain. "I guess it's too much to ask for something nice from someone who has it all." Rachel could feel the heat rising in her chest. She tried to take a deep breath, but Lily's words felt like a slap. Ethan remained silent, clearly frustrated, but trying to keep the peace. That was it. Rachel couldn't take it anymore. With all the grace she could muster, Rachel stood up, walked over to Lily, and quietly placed her hand on her shoulder. "You know," Rachel said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, "maybe what you really need isn't another expensive gift. Maybe you should look into some counseling to deal with all the trauma you've been carrying. I think it would do wonders for you." The room fell silent. Ethan looked at Rachel, both relieved and amazed by her words. Lily's face went pale, and for once she didn't have a snide remark ready. Rachel had said what everyone else had been thinking. Navigating the tension, advice from the community. After Rachel posted about her struggles with Lily, Ethan's brother's girlfriend, the response from the online community was overwhelming. People from all over chimed in with suggestions, offering their thoughts on how to handle this tense family situation. The advice was as varied as it was insightful, but each piece of feedback helped Rachel gather her thoughts on how to address Lily's ongoing behavior. One user, Jen5872, offered a simple yet effective approach. Whenever she says something stupid, reply with a simple, "What an odd thing to say," and walk away. You can admit the odd part when it doesn't fit the statement, Jen5872 wrote. They explained that using a polite but detached response could effectively diffuse Lily's constant inappropriate comments without directly engaging in a confrontation. Rachel found herself nodding along, thinking that it might be the best way to handle the situation without escalating things further. She had tried to bite her tongue before, but the idea of responding with calm indifference struck a chord with her. Rachel immediately thought of one of the many instances when Lily had said something out of line. "My boyfriend has a cousin who had a car accident and now has a severe burn scar covering half his leg. When he first met Lily, he was wearing shorts, and the first words out of Lily's mouth were, 'Whoa, what the heck happened to your leg? It's awful,'" Rachel explained, her frustration clear in her response. It's like she doesn't think before she speaks. The memory of that moment, when Lily had so thoughtlessly commented on someone's physical injury, still stung. Rachel had been unable to say anything at the time, but Gen 5872's suggestion seemed like a way forward. It was polite, yet firm enough to show Lily that her behavior wouldn't be tolerated. Matt Black Melts shared their own perspective. "Honestly, I would have cut right in and said, 'No, James and I are sticking to the budget. Keep it up and you get nothing.'" The blunt advice wasn't lost on Rachel. Matt Black Melts' suggestion was clear: stand your ground no matter the consequences. Rachel replied, acknowledging the advice but clarifying the situation. "The conversation happened over text message, so I didn't know until after it was done," she explained. "I really didn't expect it to escalate the way it did, but I do get the point. Maybe I need to be more direct in the future." Another user, Competitive Place 280, offered a slightly more critical take. "Your boyfriend shouldn't have caved. What will he do when he marries you? Will his sister continue to get away with this?" Competitive Place 280's comment struck a nerve. Rachel had long feared that Lily's behavior would continue to be a thorn in their side, especially if Ethan didn't learn to set boundaries now. The thought of this being a long-term issue once they were married was unsettling, but it was a valid concern. Rachel took a deep breath and responded thoughtfully. "To clarify, I hope he never changes. He's the sweetest, most giving person. One of the many reasons I love him. It just sucks to have someone take advantage of his kindness, especially over and over again. Lily does this to everyone. It's terrible." The weight of the situation hung heavily over her words. She didn't want to see Ethan change, but she was also exhausted from constantly witnessing him be taken advantage of by Lily and others in the family. The online community's reaction was mostly in line with Rachel's feelings. Many understood how frustrating it must be to watch someone you love being taken for granted. Samantha Wrights, a fellow poster, offered some much-needed validation. "It sounds like your boyfriend is a genuinely good guy, but he needs to start setting some boundaries before it starts affecting his mental health. You're not alone in this, and it's okay to advocate for yourself and him." Samantha's comment gave Rachel some comfort, reaffirming her desire to stand by Ethan without allowing others to walk all over him. There was also a great deal of support for Rachel's decision not to confront Lily directly during the Christmas gathering. Green Mama 44 offered advice in line with Rachel's desire to keep the peace during family events. "If you want to get through a family gathering without causing tension, try to keep the peace in the moment. Just bite your tongue and let the absurdity slide. But afterward, you can vent to your boyfriend about it. Don't let it eat you up." Rachel appreciated the understanding and advice to focus on keeping things calm during the holidays. Family gatherings were already stressful enough, without adding an explosive confrontation to the mix. Some members of the community, however, didn't let Lily off the hook completely. Mindful Mama 72 added, "It's not about the gift or the money, it's about the disrespect. You could always return the expensive gift and maybe get her something that addresses her deeper issues, like a therapy gift card. I'm sure it'd be more useful than another expensive item she'll take for granted." The suggestion of getting Lily a therapy gift card made Rachel smile. Though it wasn't practical, it certainly captured how she felt about Lily's lack of self-awareness. Therapy wasn't just for trauma, it was about learning empathy and respect, qualities Rachel felt Lily sorely lacked. As the comments continued to pour in, Rachel felt a renewed sense of strength. The online community had given her different perspectives and tools for handling the situation. The advice ranged from passive strategies like the odd thing to say response to more direct approaches like standing firm on boundaries with Ethan's family. Rachel knew she needed to have a deeper conversation with Ethan about setting limits with his brother's girlfriend. It was clear that, as long as Lily remained unchecked, the strain on their relationship would only grow. Rachel felt a sense of solidarity with the other posters. Whether they were offering empathy or practical solutions, everyone seemed to understand the delicate balance of managing family dynamics, especially when it came to handling a difficult person like Lily. She knew it wasn't going to be easy, but with the support of the community, Rachel felt better prepared to navigate the challenges ahead. So now let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. Thank you so much to everyone who commented on my last post. I'm really grateful for all the advice. Now, here's the update. Christmas actually turned out to be lovely, despite everything. Kelly, as expected, behaved for the most part, though. Of course, she still had a few off-the-wall moments. For simplicity, I'll refer to my boyfriend's parents as mother-in-law and father-in-law, even though we're not married yet. Let me set the scene. Mother-in-law opened a gift from us, a turkey baster. And what did Kelly say? Well, father-in-law trying to get her pregnant again? My eyes nearly popped out of my head. It was so bizarre. Keep in mind, my boyfriend's parents are in their 70s. An awkward silence fell over the room. I could feel the blood rushing to my face. I nearly died when she said it. Mother-in-law just stared at Kelly for a moment, then looked at James and me before muttering, "Actually, I'm not surprised. It's not you," in a dry tone. I had to laugh just to keep my sanity, so I responded with, "What an uncomfortable thing to say." Kelly, apparently unfazed, didn't miss a beat. She went on to talk about how she expected us to announce a pregnancy after our recent 2-week vacation together. I was stunned. I mean, seriously, was that her idea of normal conversation? So I responded, "Well, that's kind of weird." To lighten the mood, I had gotten James a gag gift, some funny pants with a sexual innuendo printed on the butt. Of course, Kelly kept making her uninvited comments about no one needing to know the details of our sex life. Despite the fact that the pants were obviously a joke, she didn't let it go. The weirdness didn't stop there. Throughout the evening, she made one offhand comment after another, but I just brushed it off. I kept my cool and ignored her. The rest of the family, thankfully, were lovely, funny, well-adjusted, and easy to be around. Honestly, it was just Kelly who made things awkward, and I didn't want her behavior to ruin the holiday spirit for everyone else. So I stuck to my game plan from the Reddit responses. Keep the peace, stay calm, and use the responses in my arsenal when necessary. Whenever Kelly made a weird comment, I'd either respond with something neutral or just let the silence hang in the air. There was no need to engage too much, and honestly, the night wasn't about her. It was about spending quality time with everyone else. The best part? James had my back. He's always been supportive, but after seeing how uncomfortable Kelly made me, he gave me permission to respond as I see fit in the future. He reassured me that he's got my back if I need him to step in. He also made it clear that Kelly is the wacko and that she's always been that way. That's one of the reasons I stayed silent for so long. It was for the sake of family peace. But now, knowing that James is on the same page, I feel more confident in standing up for myself when I need to. I don't have to suffer in silence for the sake of keeping things smooth. The family gathering itself was honestly great, just a little weird with Kelly. She made things uncomfortable here and there, but overall, everyone else was so warm and welcoming. It was clear that they all had a healthy dynamic, and Kelly's antics were just a small bump in the road. I'm happy I didn't let her ruin the fun for everyone. I guess the moral of the story is that some people just bring that weird energy with them, and it's okay to set boundaries. I want to thank everyone on Reddit who offered suggestions and helped me feel like I had some real tools to handle the situation. It was so reassuring to know I wasn't the only one dealing with this kind of thing. And even though I didn't confront Kelly directly, I was able to keep the peace while still standing my ground. Thanks again, Reddit. You've helped me more than you know.